down the steps. Your thoughts on President Obama today, the first African-American president?
I wish President Obama would listen carefully to Martin Luther King. I'm sure he pays verbal homage, as everyone does, to Martin Luther King. But he ought to think before he sends missiles over Pakistan, before he agrees to this bloated military budget, before he sends troops to Afghanistan, before he opposes the single-payer system, which you talked about earlier in your program. He ought to ask, what would Martin Luther King do, and what would Martin Luther King say? And if he only listened to King, he would be a very different president than he's turning out to be so far. I think we ought to hold Obama to his promise to be different and bold and to make change. So far, he hasn't come through on that promise.
When Barack Obama was running for president, asked in the debates who would MLK endorse, who would Dr. King endorse, he said, none of us.
Yeah, that's true. Because King believed, and this actually is one of the themes of our people's history, is that you cannot depend on presidents and you cannot depend on elections and voting to solve your problems. People themselves, organizing, demonstrating, clamoring, they are the only ones who can push the president and push Congress into change. And that's what we have to do now with Obama. We have to point to what Obama said in the course of the campaign when he said, we not only have to get out of Iraq, we have to get out of the mindset that brought us into Iraq. Obama himself has not gotten out of that mindset yet, and I think we, the people, have to speak to him about that.
How?
Well, these people that I saw in your program earlier who were demonstrating for the single-payer health system, which Obama is very, very reluctant to endorse, they were doing what needs to be done. They were committing acts of civil disobedience. They were going, into offices where they were told to leave and they wouldn't leave. They were doing what we were doing during the movement against the war in Vietnam. They were doing what the black movement was doing in the South. And this is what we will need. We will need demonstrative acts which dramatize the fact that our government is not responding to what the people need and what the people want.
What's the alternative to war with Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Well, the alternative to war is to send food and medicine. I was with a taxi driver from Afghanistan, and I always start up a conversation with taxi drivers because they know more than most news commentators. And so, not you, I'm not talking about you, Amy, of course, but he was from Afghanistan. I said, what do you think about Obama sending more troops to Afghanistan? I didn't tell him what my position was. He said, we don't need troops. He said, we need food and medicine. We ought to stop thinking that we must have military solutions to the problems that we face in the world. The solutions that we need are the solutions of dealing with sickness and disease and hunger. That's fundamental. If you want to end terrorism...
I'm telling you, the great historian, you have 5 seconds.
If you want to end terrorism, you have to stop being terrorist, which is what war is.
Howard Zinn.